Senator Hughes.
Thank you, Mr President. I never knew Tim Fischer when he was in Parliament. He'd left politics before I became involved. He'd been a giant on the political stage, but it was for much more personal family reasons that our paths crossed. And it's for that community that I want to acknowledge Tim. My former boss and dear friend, Bill Heffernan, introduced me to Tim Fischer when my son was diagnosed with autism. I still remember the phone call. Bill told me that Tim had a son with autism and that Tim was probably on the autism spectrum himself. But it was said with such love and affection in a way that only one country bloke could talk about another. And whilst I had conversations with Tim about autism, our sons and what the future would hold, for me it was always more about the hope and comfort that Tim himself provided, not only to me but to a whole host of parents who were struggling with their child's diagnosis. Like so many Australians, I watched that final Australian story on Tim's life. And Tim and Judy, like so many families, were given the grimmest diagnosis, devoid of hope and a future for Harrison. They were told, "Your son has autism. He'll probably never live independently. He'll probably never have a job. And he'll probably never do the other things that other children or adults do." And unfortunately, this is a story that far too many of us as parents hear. With an autism diagnosis still being quite a subjective process and responsiveness to therapy the great unknown, children can move up and down the spectrum throughout their life and continue to learn. But like so many other extraordinary autism parents, determined not to let the diagnosis define their family, Tim and Judy worked tirelessly for Harrison. And I know it would have been of great comfort to Tim in his passing, knowing that the extraordinary young man that Harrison has developed into is an independent one at that. Harrison works part-time as a technology assistant at his former school and is a mentor to other children on the autism spectrum. Harrison knows every electorate and sitting member in federal parliament. His prodigious memory also extends to sporting statistics, planes and Pokemon. In my house, it's Godzilla, New York, suspension bridges and fishing. Tim and Judy worked hard to also pay it forward for the families coming behind them. That autism is a different, not less, way of seeing the world. And I also loved my talks with Tim about Dominic and my other children, Millie and Rupert, how autism siblings are the best, and we should be telling more people about that. It's because of the Fisher-Brewer family and others like them that autism's no longer hidden, that those on the spectrum have much to contribute. With the right supports, they can make a significant contribution to the community around them. It's because of their efforts families like mine could find comfort and support. I've found so much commentary around Tim's quirks and eccentricities have missed the point. Those of us that understand the world of autism, we know that trains, modes of transport, and his amazing ability to recall all the timetables of those modes of transport was just a part of his special interests. As a parent of an autistic son, it gives me great hope for Fred's future, to see how wonderfully Harrison is thriving in life. But not just that. More so that a man so beloved and intelligent as Tim, who identified himself as mildly autistic, can rise to the top echelons of our Australian government and effect such great change, shines a light so brightly on all of our children on the spectrum and what they might be able to achieve in their future. Tim, you were a brilliant politician, but also an incredible parent, and I thank you for the path you laid open to our autism families and all the members of your autistic tribe. Rest in peace.